Welcome back to Gen X Horror. You know what's absolutely wild about the golden age of B-movies? These guys took budgets smaller than a Marvel movie's craft services table and somehow created wild, enthralling cinematic experiences that are more memorable than half the blockbusters playing in the theaters right now. Like movies where the special effects budget was literally cardboard and spray paint. Dialogue was written on napkins, and the monsters looked like they were constructed during a particularly inebriated arts and crafts session. It's before Hollywood had all these rules about, coherent storytelling and basic production values. Filmmakers were just throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck, and man, did some weird stuff stick. So buckle up, because we're taking a chronological ride through the 15 most gloriously terrible films that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about what makes a movie quote-unquote good. These aren't just bad movies, they're transcendent disasters that somehow loop back around to being absolute bangers. Let's dive into the chaos and see what they've learned throughout the years. Let's go.
Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
Reefer Madness, 1936. You've heard of it. We're starting with the granddaddy of unintentional comedy. Originally titled Tell Your Children, this anti-Mary Jane propaganda film follows a group of wholesome teenagers who smoke one joint and immediately transform into maniacal killers, jazz musicians, or worse, people who play piano really, really poorly. The plot suggests that marijuana will make you murder your friends, seduce innocent women, and develop an inexplicable urge to laugh hysterically while playing cards. That's the actual plot, man. What makes this even more incredible is that the film was originally funded by a church group and was meant to be shown at parent-teacher meetings as a serious educational tool. The hilariously over-the-top performances and completely insane understanding of how drugs even work turn this into the ultimate midnight movie experience. The film was actually lost for decades until it was rediscovered in the 1970s, just in time for audiences who actually knew what it was like and were able to poke holes and lost it in every single scene. This is a classic.
That bird is extraterrestrial. Comes from outer space.
Now in 1957, it's the giant claw, and even by B-movie standards, this film features what might be the most ridiculous monster in B-movie history. It's a giant bird that looks like a deformed puppet designed by someone who had never actually seen an actual live bird before. The creature is supposed to be an ancient flying beast from space that's terrorizing Earth, but it ends up looking more like a rejected Muppet with anger management issues and a serious case of bedhead. And the backstory makes this even better. The special effects were outsourced to a company in Mexico without director Fred Sears even seeing the final monster design. So when the cast first saw the finished film at the premiere, they reportedly burst into laughter at their own movie. Jeff Morrow, the lead actor, was so embarrassed he claimed he hid in his car for weeks afterwards. The monster moves like it's being operated by someone having a seizure, and its attacks on miniature cities are about as convincing as a toddler playing with toy planes. Even though this was 1957, I have a feeling they knew better. Well, 1958 also gave us Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, and hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, especially when that woman is 5 stories tall and has deep-rooted relationship issues. Smoke show Allison Hayes plays Nancy Archer, a wealthy woman who encounters aliens and grows to an enormous size after her husband's infidelity pushes her over the edge. Armed with nothing but a bedsheet bikini and righteous anger, she goes on a rampage that puts every modern superhero tantrum to shame. The special effects here are charmingly awful. Nancy's giant hand reaching through windows looks like it was filmed in someone's garage, and the perspective shots are so inconsistent, you'll think the cameraman was having an extramarital crisis of his own. But honestly, this movie was way ahead of its time in terms of female empowerment. Strip away the ridiculous premise, and you've got a story about a woman literally growing beyond the constraints of society placed on her. And that's some deep stuff for 1958. The film spawned a 1993 HBO remake with Daryl Hannah proving that sometimes the best bad ideas are definitely worth revisiting. In retrospect, are they?
Dave! Doc Hallen's been killed.
Doc Hallen, what happened?
It's over at his place. You gotta come.
A couple years ahead, 1958, we're talking about the Blob, and before he was the king of cool, Steve McQueen was fighting Killer Jello from outer space in his very first leading role. This film about a gelatinous alien life form that consumes everything in its path and somehow managed to be both completely ridiculous and genuinely effective. The Blob itself starts small, but grows larger with each victim it absorbs, moving through the small Pennsylvania town like the world's slowest, most digestive serial killer. And what's amazing is how seriously everyone takes the premise. McQueen delivers his lines with the intensity of someone facing down Godzilla, not what essentially amounts to aggressive strawberry jam. The film was made for just $110,000, and the Blob itself was created using silicone mixed with some red dye. The famous scene where the Blob oozes through a movie theater was actually filmed in a real theater, and they had to keep reheating the mixture because it kept solidifying under the lights. And despite its B-movie origins, this became a genuine classic that spawned remakes that proved that sometimes the simplest concepts work the best. Kevin Dillon's 1988 The Blob might be more memorable for Gen Xers.
The mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
1959 brought us Plan 9 from Outer Space, and this is the movie that Ed Wood, the man who gave us some of the industry's most wonderfully inept films, considers his masterpiece. Aliens resurrect the dead to stop humanity from creating a weapon that could destroy the universe, because apparently our zombie problem is their problem too somehow. Man, let our zombies be. The plot involves grave robbers, flying saucers held up by visible strings, and Bela Lugosi in his final role. Sort of. He died during production. Ed Wood used his chiropractor in a cape as Bela's body double. The behind-the-scenes stories are almost better than the movie itself. Wood couldn't afford proper sets, so he used his own house and local cemetery. The famous cockpit scenes were filmed in Wood's living room with a shower curtain backdrop, and the film sat unreleased for years until it was picked up by a distributor who marketed it as the worst movie ever made. And somehow that became its selling point. This movie is like watching someone's drunken hallucinations about making a science fiction film, and it's absolutely impossible to look away from. I love this one.
She was trying to scream. I didn't mean to kill her.
Alright, it's 1960, and this is Girl in Lover's Lane, and this one's a bit of a departure from our usual monster mayhem, but stay with me. This melodramatic tale of drifters and small-town secrets became infamous not for its plot, but for being one of the most awkwardly paced films that were just ever made. The story follows two drifters, more or less, who end up in a small town where everyone seems to be harboring dark secrets and speaking in the most wooden dialogue ever committed to film. What makes this movie special is how it takes a simple premise and somehow makes it feel like it's 3 hours long, despite being only about 78 minutes long. The performances are so stiff, you wouldn't notice if the actors were replaced by mannequins between takes, and that's being generous. It gained cult status primarily through Mystery Science Theater 3000, all hail Mystery Science Theater 3000, where it became legendary for being the kind of film that makes you question the entire concept of linear time. The pacing is so slow as hell, that you could literally leave to make dinner and come back without missing anything important. How long did Hungry Man's take back then?
He invokes the unspeakable. She invites it.
I really dig this next one. It's 1970 and it's the Dunwich Horror. This is H.P. Lovecraft, and H.P. Lovecraft adaptations are notoriously difficult to pull off. But this one, starring Dean Stockwell, takes the challenge and runs screaming into the sunset with it. The story involves ancient gods, a creepy New England town, and a guy who may or may not be the spawn of cosmic horror. Stockwell plays Wilbur Whatley, who's trying to use the legendary Necronomicon, man, you'll remember that word from the 80s, to summon his monstrous brother back to Earth, as if a normal family reunion didn't have enough anxiety. The film tries to be a serious horror film, but it ends up being unintentionally hilarious, thanks to its attempts at cosmic horror on a TV show budget. The invisible monster scenes are particularly amazing. Imagine trying to show the audience something that's supposed to be too terrible to comprehend, but your special effects budget is roughly the same as a film student's lunch money. Stockwell gives it his all, delivering lines about ancient cosmic entities with the same intensity most actors reserve for the stage, which somehow makes the whole thing even more endearing. Love this one.
The terrifying mutant that strikes from behind the shroud of night.
Imagine this, it's 1972. I haven't even been born yet, but they still managed to release Night of the Lepus. Sorry, that's Night of the Lepus. Someone looked at Jaws and thought, you know what would be even scarier than a giant shark? Giant bunnies, man. This film features mutant rabbits the size of horses terrorizing the American Southwest. And yeah, they're just as adorable and non-threatening as it sounds. The giant rabbits are actually regular rabbits, filmed on miniature sets, which means you're watching normal cute bunnies hopping around dollhouse versions of cities while dramatic music plays. The cast, which includes Stuart Whitman and Janet Leigh, treats this material with the utmost seriousness, discussing the rabbit threat like they're planning a D-Day invasion or something. The film was inspired by Russell Brand's novel The Year of the Angry Rabbit, but somewhere between page and screen, someone decided that this story really needed more footage of bunnies with fake blood smeared on their mouths. Watership Down could have taught this production a thing or two, that's for damn sure.
You shall be Blacula.
It's 1972 and things had a huge upturn because we're talking Blacula. This movie took the classic Dracula story and gave it a blaxploitation makeover that's actually way cooler than it has any right to be. William Marshall plays an 18th century African prince who gets turned into a vampire by Dracula himself, and he wakes up in 1970s Los Angeles, and now that's awesome. Armed with one of the most magnificent capes in cinema history and a voice that can make James Earl Jones jealous,
Make it a Bloody Mary.
Marshall delivers a performance that's just as terrifying as it is charismatic. Marshall is literally a man pulled out of time, trying to navigate modern America while dealing with his drinking problem. Well, his blood drinking problem. The film spawned a sequel, Scream, Blacula, Scream. I have not seen that, and it helped establish the horror blaxploitation subgenre. Marshall's performance is genuinely powerful, turning what could have been a simple cash grab into something that actually has emotional weight to it.
Who are you anyway?
Frankenstein. National hero.
Man, I can't wait to use that line. This is take 20 because this title has me tongue twisted. Death Race 2000. This is 1975. Murder as a sport. Now that's what I call ahead of its time. This was great. It's a dystopian action film that imagines a future where cross-country car races involve drivers scoring points by running over pedestrians. David Carradine plays Frankenstein, the reigning champion who's basically a walking car accident, while Sly Stallone plays Machine Gun Joe, a driver who prefers bullets to bumpers. Produced by Roger Corman, of course, for about $300,000. The car designs are absolutely wild. Imagine if Hot Wheels were designed by Colonel Joe Moore or a Morton Joe from Furiosa as we know him. What makes this even more impressive is how it predicted our current obsession with reality TV and its social media spectacles. This film inspired a video game, a remake, and countless imitators, proving that sometimes the best way to comment on society is to take its worst impulses and push them to their logical extreme.
Oh, Sheriff, it's you.
You look as if you're expecting Satan himself.
In 1977, a little number came out called Satan's Cheerleaders. Pom-poms met pentagrams in this horror comedy that's exactly as wonderfully ridiculous as it sounds. It's a group of cheerleaders and they encounter satanic cultists during what should have been a routine trip to a cheerleading competition. The film stars John Ireland as the sheriff who's secretly leading the cult, because apparently protecting and serving also includes serving Satan. What makes this movie special is how it completely commits to its absurd premise without winking at the audience once. These cheerleaders face down demonic forces with the same determination they bring to a basketball game, and somehow that makes the whole thing more entertaining than most serious horror films we've seen. The film was part of the 1970s trend of mixing horror with other genres, and it's not exactly scary, but it's definitely memorable. The cheerleading routines are performed with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for Olympic competitions, which creates this weird disconnect between peppy athletics and the supernatural horror that, I don't know, it works. It works great.
Across this great nation, almost everyone has been affected in one way or another by this terrible tomato onslaught. Mrs. Williams, I understand your husband is missing.
Yes,
Do you think he's dead?
Well,
Will you miss him? Will you marry again?
Most of you are going to know this title. It's 1978, and it is Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. This film takes the concept of nature gone wild movies and pushes it to its illogical extreme by making vegetables the villain. And 9-year-old me agrees. They always have been. The plot involves mutated tomatoes that develop a taste for human blood and begin terrorizing San Diego. The government assembles a crack team of scientists to stop this tomato menace. The film was made for just $90,000, and it looks it. The killer tomatoes are clearly just regular tomatoes being thrown at actors who then fall down dramatically. Here's the genius part. The movie knows exactly how ridiculous it is and embraces that absurdity completely. The tone is pure camp, and it's got musical
It's no time to make a fuss. We gotta get those tomatoes before they get out.
deliberately awful dialogue, and sight gags that would make the Naked Gun franchise jealous. It spawned 3 sequels and an animated TV series and a devoted cult following that proves sometimes the best way to make a horror movie is to make it completely impossible to take seriously.
Enough is never enough of the stuff.
The stuff, the taste that makes you hungry for more.
I love this one. This is 1985, The Stuff. Larry Cohen's satirical horror masterpiece takes aim at consumer culture by creating a dessert that literally consumes its consumers. This mysterious white substance appears from the ground and becomes America's hottest new treat, but it's actually a parasitic organism that takes over people's minds at the least. Michael Moriarty, rest in peace, plays an industrial saboteur investigating the phenomenon, and his performance is wonderfully unhinged in the way only 1980s horror movies could achieve. What makes this movie brilliant is how it works both as a straight horror film and as a savage satire of advertising culture. The Stuff is marketed with the same enthusiasm as any real product, complete with jingles and celebrity endorsements, which makes the horror elements even more effective. Cohen shot the film guerrilla style in real locations. The film predicted our current concerns about processed food and corporate manipulation by about 30 years. The practical effects and body horror here are top-notch, man. Check this one out if you haven't. I'm sure you have.
It was a night like any other night. Then something happened.
As the list goes on, we're getting closer to more familiar titles for sure. 1988, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Guys, clowns in space. Just let that concept wash over you for a minute. This film manages to be both a legitimate horror movie and a brilliant comedy by taking 2 things that terrify people, clowns and alien invasions, and it combines them into something that's somehow more disturbing than either would be alone. The clowns arrive in a circus tent-shaped spaceship and begin harvesting humans by wrapping them in cotton candy cocoons, because apparently alien cuisine has a lot of sugar in it, baby. The creature design is absolutely incredible. These aren't just people in clown suits, they're genuinely alien beings that happen to look like the worst nightmare version of birthday party entertainment. The film's effects are both impressive and deeply unsettling. Every gag in the movie serves the plot. From the shadow puppet that devours a victim to the balloon animal that tracks its prey, this is one of those rare films that creates its own mythology, so complete that you'll never look at an actual circus the same way again. If you ever did.
Legend has it that Stonebridge Cavern was the lair of the Dampton Worm.
My God. This one's come up in the comments a few times, and it's 1988's Lair of the White Worm. British horror gone wild for sure. Ken Russell's adaptation of Bram Stoker's final novel is like watching someone's chaotic dreams about Victorian literature filtered through 1980s excess. The film stars Hugh Grant in one of his earliest roles and Peter Capaldi as they investigate a giant snake creature that's been living beneath the English countryside. Amanda Donahoe plays the seductive vampire lady Sylvia, who worships the worm and has a fondness for both leather outfits and human sacrifice. I probably share one of those. Russell was well known for his surreal, over-the-top style, and this film finds him at his most wonderfully unhinged. The movie features dream sequences that feel like they were directed by Salvador Dali, having a bad acid trip, and the tone shifts between gothic horror and camp comedy so quickly, you're going to get whiplash. The film's sexual imagery is so obvious it becomes abstract, and the performances are pitched at a level that would make an opera singer jealous. It's the kind of movie that could only have been made in the 1980s, when excess was considered a virtue and subtlety was apparently banned by law. Running through 15 movies that prove sometimes the best way to make a movie is to throw all conventional wisdom out the window and embrace the beautiful madness that is left. These aren't just so bad they're good, they're actually genuine works of art that happen to exist in a parallel universe where logic is optional and entertainment value is just everything. What's your favorite gloriously terrible B movie? Drop your recs in the comments below. I'm always looking for new ways to question my life choices. And if you enjoyed this journey through the wonderfully weird world of cult cinema, smash the like button. Why don't you subscribe, and we'll get more deep dives of these films going forward. Until next time, keep watching the skies and the produce section. And as always, everyone, I love you. Stay cool.